Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our speaker series. And as we know, many of the students here actually are in your CPD class. So at the beginning of today's talk, we'll have Dean Kumar give a little introduction about CSML and the CPD program. We will then have Dr. Corey Scott to introduce today's speaker. And today's talk is called Management and Leadership in the Digital Age, presented by Dr. Georg Schlueter. And finally, we're going to have a Q&A session that's monitored by Dr. Ozer and Dr. Scott. And without further ado, Dean Kumar.
All right. Thank you, Stella, and welcome to everyone. I see that we have very eager faces here and several of you, so I'm really glad to see all of you. I wanted to start by giving you just a little bit information about your university, Alliant International University. Alliant it's a private university. It's accredited by the best accreditation, the golden standard, within accreditation by WASC. And as you know, that we prepare students for professional careers. And we have schools, business school, psychology, forensics, education, nursing, and law. Right? And actually, we have a very long history, more than 100 years. We have been around, which is why it is so important to be in universities that are stable, that have reputation, because you want universities to be with you all the way through your careers. We have 6 campuses, and these 6 campuses are actually the 7 now: San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Irvine, Fresno, and Sacramento. And we have a new campus in Phoenix now. Yes, we can go to the next slide. The School of Management, California School of Management and Leadership. Many of you are in these programs, and what is important to know what are all the programs. There is someone
That's some crazy.
They're themselves not muted, so you should mute yourself. So it's important to know the breadth and depth of the programs that are being offered from the management school. We have graduate programs, which are the MBA, the MS in Data Analytics, MS in Information Systems and Technology, and an MS in Healthcare Analytics. We also have doctorate programs, which are a DBA, Doctorate in Business Administration, and a PhD in Organizational Leadership. Several of you are aware of these programs. We actually also have certificate programs. Certificate programs often are good ways to get to know a subject or a topic area. And we have certificate programs in various business management, but also technology-related programs. So cybersecurity, data analytics, e-business management, data management, and healthcare analytics. So with that, Stella, next slide. With that, I will hand it over. Oh, one very important item. Many of you are already in the CPD program, because CPD, which stands for CSML, Professional Development Program, CPD is what is important for you to be very familiar and prepared for careers after you graduate. So practical training is inbuilt, woven into the fabric of any program that you do that CSML offers you. All our master's programs, MBA, doctoral programs. CPD, the professional development, wants you or requires you to do practical training all throughout the program. Sometimes we say from day 1 to the day you graduate, which is very, very promising, the potential of having practical training and then looking for a job after you graduate goes up no matter which discipline you are in, whether you're marketing, finance, organization behavior, whether you're technology, data analytics, no matter what industry, what field, practical training on your resume makes it easier and better for you to do better in your jobs and careers. So you see over there how the CPD program works. We will talk about it towards the end again, and you can have some questions which Dr. Oziot and Dr. Scott will take up at the end of the talk by Dr. Georg Schlueter. So with that, I think next slide is to introduce Dr. Schlueter. Yes, and with that, I hand this over to Dr. Corey Scott.
Hi, thank you. Yes, so we are honored tonight to have Dr. Schlueter, and I am honored to introduce him. He is a technologist, also an industry advisor and an educator. He received a PhD in engineering physics and an MBA from the University of Technology in Aachen, Germany. As an educator, he engages with our MBA and DBA students in research projects, exploring opportunities offered by the digital age. And with his student teams, he applies logical, mathematical intelligence to research and to explain unique work process automation opportunities. This synergistic approach is detailed in his recent published book, 5 Steps to Success for the Digital Age and Beyond. Studies in the application of logical mathematical intelligence. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Schlueter, who will be presenting on management and leadership in the digital age.
Dr. Scott, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm flattered, and it is my honor to speak to you and your colleagues, and also to a large number of students right now. And Stella, would you give me the possibility to do screen sharing?
Yes, you can screen share.
Yeah, it's right there. Okay. Does everybody see that slide?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We do.
So I'd like to get rid of the panel up at the top. There we are. So again, I'm honored to present my thoughts on management and leadership in the digital age. And as a background to expand on what Dr. Scott just said, I am the owner of Hansa Technetics, a company where we do process analysis and automation. And I'm also an adjunct faculty at Alliant University, where I teach business fundamentals, IT systems, the CPD program that was introduced by Dr. Kumar, and I entertained several internships. So with that said, I want to quickly summarize my personal background. I was born and educated in Germany. I had the opportunity for a 2-year management trainee program at Unilever in Europe. And then I immigrated to the United States and became a naturalized US citizen in 1984. My work experience includes research scientist work. I managed programs with cost and profit centers in the nuclear industry. Nuclear is not a very welcome word these days, but we worked on peaceful power generation using nuclear energy. For the last 35 years, I have been an industry advisor. And for the last 35 years, I also taught at various international business universities here in Southern California. And for the last 2 years, I have been a faculty at Alliant. So with that said, I want to get right into the topic. management and leadership in the digital age. I want to address three sets of questions that are listed here on this slide. The first set of questions is, what is the digital age anyway? And what is the different from what we had before? The second set is, in our complex world, how can we develop transparency and gain an understanding? How can we gain impactful insight? We need to gain insight into processes in order to be able to take an effect, make some improvements, or develop even new processes. And the third set of questions is regarding the entrepreneur and entrepreneurship terms. They are very frequently used, and I'm not so sure when students tell me they are an entrepreneur or they want to be an entrepreneur, if they fully understand what entrepreneurship really is. So what does entrepreneurship mean? And how does entrepreneurship fit into the digital age? So these are the three groups of questions that I want to address. And here is the first attempt to talk about what is digital age anyway. The nature offers us two natural sciences, physics and chemistry. And the Greek understood that this dual concept of nature exists. The Greek talked already about physics and chemistry. And they also felt that something else was needed to describe and define physics and chemical events. Their solution was beauty. The Greek defined beauty, and when they wanted to design and build another beautiful temple, they used their experience in physics and chemistry at the time for construction. And for the design, they used a concept that they called beauty. They didn't use mathematics. In fact, they rejected any mathematical structure and any mathematical approaches. They wanted to deal with beauty. And it was interesting that in technology, we have been focusing on designing things in the early industrial ages by using our knowledge in physics, chemistry, and mathematics, and we neglected beauty. But beauty has been coming back. We want to design and build things that look beautiful. But how did the Greek now respond that they rejected mathematics? The famous Greek philosopher Pythagoras wanted to research nature's language and had very good ideas on how to go about it. But he was not allowed to do that in Greece. So he had to leave the country. He had to flee to Italy, and in Italy, he actually performed his work. And his algebraic discoveries became fundamental elements of progress at his time, and they remain fundamental even in today's time. Do we have a question? Oh, I guess not. So it is interesting that the algebraic things that Pythagoras invented at the time, at the beginning of mathematics, are still valid today. In fact, they are so important that some of the very complex mathematical correlations that people come up with and find difficulties to solve, some of Pythagoras' inventions that are 3,000 years old are helping out. So he is considered one of the founders of the third natural science, namely mathematics. Physics and chemistry, as you know, is something that we can observe in nature. But where is math? Can we observe math? No, we can't. Mathematics is not visible in nature. It is built on human logic as a language applicable to physics and chemical events. This is really phenomenal about mathematics. We created it, humans created it, but now we are finding that nature, in everything that happens in nature, follows some mathematical laws, whether we know it or not. Think, for example, of gravity. If we don't know what gravity is, if we cannot describe it in mathematical terms, it still happens according to a law. And understanding these laws is important for what we want to do. Natural laws in physics and chemistry are being studied and learned through the application of mathematical expertise. And as the understanding of nature progressed and became increasingly complex, mathematical tools and expertise had to be pushed forward. I'd like to mention an example in the automotive industry. When the first automobiles were built, they were vibrating very much. Maybe you have seen one of the old cars when they show you some older movies. They vibrate a lot. Why? Because our engineers did not have the mathematical tools to design the automobile in such a way that it doesn't vibrate. So today we have automobiles, even though the engine is running, the automobile is standing still and is not vibrating. Some manufacturers demonstrate that by putting a wine glass on the hood to show that the wine glass is standing still and is not shaken off. So mathematics is progressing as our technology progresses and as the demand is progressing. Mathematics is progressing as we find new areas of exploration. And if we then find that we don't have the mathematical tools to analyze it, we develop the mathematics further. Significant milestones for identifying natural laws. I have here 4 examples. Isaac Newton, a British researcher, about 200 years ago, discovered the formula for gravity. Gravity was known, but nobody had a formula for how the engineers can work with it. Clerk Maxwell, also a British scientist, discovered mathematical definitions of electromagnetism. You all have had magnets in your hands, and you experience that you have 2 pieces of magnets, they attract each other, and if you turn one around, they push away from each other. There are forces involved, and somebody had to define what these forces are and how to calculate it. This is what Maxwell did, and especially he worked with magnetic forces created by electrical fields. Then you all know about Edison's and Tesla's creative applications of AC and DC electricity. All this is described in mathematical forms. And then Albert Einstein discovered the mathematical definition of relativity. And relativity is something that most people shy away from it because relativity is something that is difficult to understand and relate to. Albert Einstein forced it and researched it and found a mathematical correlation for relativity. So let's go to the next slide. What is the impact of technological know-how on business management? So this is where now the connection from these physics, chemistry, and mathematical things that I just described, how that relates to management. And this is probably what you are most interested in. There was a Jacob Fugger, a German merchant and mining entrepreneur and banker. He developed the income infrastructure as we know it today and as we practice it today. So about 500 years ago, he established for the first time how an income statement for a business needs to be structured. How did he get to that? He just observed his many businesses and observed the dynamics, how the business grows and declines and what is happening. And then he found a way to describe it. And when you look at any income statement today of a modern company, you find that the basis of that income statement is what Jacob Fugger put together at the time. So he used also mathematics, very simple mathematics, addition and multiplication, not much more. Then Adam Smith, who you may have heard about, Adam Smith's book about the wealth of nations, which was published in 1776, the same year that the United States were formed. He also looked at economics. He looked at the economic conditions of nations and was interested in how economics and how businesses have to be structured in order to meet economic requirements. His main topic was that he promoted division of labor. As you see companies in operation, and in fact, how our society is structured, you find that we favor division of labor. We have economists, we have lawyers, we have accountants, and each of these groups is a component of the overall concept and is the result of division of labor. And he, that is Adam Smith, focused on productivity. The word productivity is not well understood by everyone. Productivity is not production. Productivity is the efficiency at which we produce, at which we operate our companies. And there is a relationship that shows how productivity relates to inflation and unemployment. And there is a very strict relationship that says that the difference between inflation and wage growth is created by productivity. So that is the connection between all these mathematical things and business management. So as we continue to explore the question, what is the digital age anyway, and what is different from what we have before, we can say that progress and knowledge of natural sciences have always been the basis of progress and business management. In that sense, the digital age is a natural progression of what has been happening for centuries. The difference is the onset of electronic computing. Electronic computing is not just a tool to process existing knowledge. The computer becomes the driver of new knowledge and fundamentally new practices. So when I watch the new generation, when I watch my students, they are very firm in using electronic devices like the computer, the internet, information technology. All that combined represents the digital age. And so we can say that the computer technology creates a new age. Computers enable the formation of another language that reaches way beyond mathematics as we know it. And the new language is known as artificial intelligence. AI started based on human logic as we practice it in mathematics, but then artificial intelligence reaches the point where it develops its own logic. That makes it difficult, that makes it interesting, and to some extent even dangerous. Math is known as the third natural science, and artificial intelligence may become the fourth natural science. The evolution of the industrial age is typically divided into 4 industrial revolutions. And there are several different definitions around of what has happened. And I like to share with you my version, which is very similar to most others. The first revolution is characterized by the application of steam power. People wanted to have in their manufacturing process machines to drive certain processes. And steam gave them the first opportunity, steam power. And steam was fired first by wood, by coal, gas, and today even by oil. And the second revolution is the discovery of application of electricity and nuclear energy. The third revolution is the discovery and application of electronic computing. And the fourth revolution is the development and application of the internet. The internet is really a fantastic phenomenon. We used to work with libraries. If you wanted to, or if I wanted to research something when I was a student, I had to go to the library, find some books. And there were large libraries and there were small libraries, but libraries were the key thing to promote and expand information. With the onset of the internet, you have the largest possible library on your computer. I don't have to tell you anymore that you don't have to go to the library because you know that you don't have to go to the library. But it is important that you recognize this tremendous advancement and this largest possible library that everyone has in front of him in the form of his computer and the access to the internet is a tremendous driver for progress, because theoretically everybody can know everything. If you have a question, you can get the information within 5 minutes or less from the internet. This is a tremendous enhancement of knowledge, the spreading of knowledge, and the advancement of knowledge. And now with the event of artificial intelligence, this whole process is even more accelerated. So when I list here AI technology as the fifth revolution, this is my point of view. You don't find this in the literature. And other people may have other ideas of what the fifth revolution is or will be. But I think we are already in the transition from the fourth to the fifth. So what is the difference between what we used to have and now that we have to deal with digital technology? Adam Smith's division of labor has formed the core characteristics of modern society and business operations. That principle is strong and will remain in effect. But the computer will perform the division of labor, and human labor will direct the computer to accurately perform its task. So in my vision, this is the key to understand the digital age. We, as the human beings, have to lift ourselves up to understand the integral process and get away from the division of labor. The computer will do the division of labor work. And we have to design the computer, we have to design the programs, we have to oversee what the computer is doing. And so we will end up being the integrator and being relieved from division of labor. So the human task now is to understand and utilize emerging technologies, create new processes, and create new products and services. And we have to be in command of these languages, not just mathematics, but there are a vast amount of programming languages. There is information technology. There is the Internet of Things, digital marketing technologies and techniques, and there is blockchain. And these are just examples of things that enter into the world of our languages that we have to be in command of. Blockchain is not necessarily known to everyone, but this is a distributed database across computer networks using the internet. And blockchain facilitate tremendous fast transmission of huge databases. So how can we develop transparency and gain an understanding of what is happening? How can we gain impactful insight? This is now the second set of questions that I stated up front. These are most difficult questions to ask, and each individual must find his or her own way. I can provide some guidance. I personally want to find little things that make great impact. Don't always search for big things. Sometimes little things are very important and have great impact. So I try to find those. I always try to find complexity with simplicity. And I like to say something about simplicity. Some people emphasize complexity and think that is important. I think the opposite. I think simplicity is key, because when you understand some of the natural processes, it's simple. For example, when you look at Isaac Newton's gravity formula, it is not a complicated formula. It's very, very simple. When you look at Einstein's relativity formula, it's not complicated. It's very, very simple. You can understand these formulas with your high school math. But this doesn't mean that the way of these researchers to that knowledge wasn't difficult. It was very difficult. Isaac Newton worked on this for years. Einstein worked on his relativity for years before he got to the final result. But then the result is simple. So simplicity is very, very important, and that's where the value is. Simplicity has value because it is difficult to get to a simple understanding. Complex systems are not practical. They do not survive. Complexity is actually plagued with instability and consequently with failure. In contrast, simplicity is strong, sustainable, and practical. Simplicity is intrinsically transparent. When you have something that is simple, you can easily understand it. That's what transparency means. Simplicity is understood by many. And simplicity has great profit potential in business operations. So to continue my guidance, I want to say that the main goal in business operations is continued growth in productivity. All knowledge and tools available need to be applied to create growth in productivity. So when you look for simple things, when you look for little things that have great impact, look at what it does to productivity. Productivity growth is the goal with everything we do. Work processes need to be updated and renewed all the time, and each product and service has a life cycle. That means that productivity growth also means new products and services. So how can we develop transparency? Based on my 35 years experience as a consultant and process analyst and automation, we generated with our automation processes productivity gains that achieved 500%. Today, in the fourth industrial revolution, having more advanced tools, we produce productivity growth of 1,000, 2,000, and more percentages. And this is not a dream. This is feasible. And that is part of this digital age, this kind of a progress. So now back to the question, entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. The entrepreneur is one who recognizes process, improvement, and opportunities. The entrepreneur is one who recognizes the pain and he or she envisions solutions. An entrepreneur is not the administrator in the traditional sense. The entrepreneur does not administer existing processes. The entrepreneur envisions and invents new and more efficient processes. As an example, I like to mention something that happened at Boeing when they developed the 747 jumbo plane. The project manager who was in charge of developing and building the first 747 jumbo plane several years back, he stated that this design will be created paperless. He was the first one to use computers to develop and design a huge product. He then organized an engineering team here in the United States, in Seattle, one in Japan, and one in Europe, in England. And so this project was progressing 24 hours a day. Each team worked on it for 8 hours and then passed it on to the next team. So, and as a result, the 747 didn't take the typical 7 years for development. He got it done in less than 4 years. And that means tremendous time savings. So we are coming now to the point where I want to share with you a concept that I developed in all the work that we have done in automation. We call it the synergetic 5-step innovation process. It is a 5-step process that gave us and will give you the discipline to remain objective. At the beginning, there is qualitative research. Research existing literature to gain an understanding of the existing processes. And the question typically is, how much research do I have to do? Well, once we have done enough research, we find that any new report that comes across our desk is not bringing us new information. So then we have reached saturation and we can move on. With that knowledge, then we formulate an ideal and conflict-free solution, which should represent a breakthrough. And then we define logical mathematical intelligence to test the solution. And logical mathematical intelligence simply means that we use the basic mathematics to research everything that involves the new invention. And with that, we develop logical mathematical knowledge to just what we have found and do a detailed, comprehensive assessment of the solution. So with this guideline, we need to think again about simplicity. Simplification, yes, but do not oversimplify. So I have several warnings here. And be aware of paradigms. Don't fall into a blind fantasy about your innovation idea. Don't be misguided by false pretensions. Always remain honest and forward and don't neglect anything. Tragic oversights of knowledge that was available at the time but was intentionally or unintentionally overlooked resulted in catastrophic failures. And as you look in the literature, you find tremendous catastrophes. And when you research them, you find that there were some important things neglected at the beginning. I researched, for example, the sinking of the Titanic. I researched the Chernobyl nuclear accident, and I found that these accidents were really not caused by the final event. These were accidents that were 10 or 20 years in the making. By overlooking some important elements. And when you use my synergetic 5-step innovation process, you are probably on the good side and don't overlook anything. So we are coming to the end. So the synergetic 5-step innovation process should be applied at 3 levels: at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Several recommendations before I close. Don't be scared of the math involved. In business applications, the math is simple. High school math is sufficient to solve most issues. Develop an integral understanding of business procedures. Let your computer do the division of labor. Be the integrator yourself. And use the synergetic 5-step innovation process to remain objective and disciplined and become the modern entrepreneur. With that, I say thank you for your attention. And I'm sorry it probably took a little longer than you had anticipated.
Thank you so much, George, for this wonderful presentation. Very engaging, very interesting. So I would like to open it up for questions from our audience, students and faculty. You can unmute yourself and ask the question directly to
I'll be happy to answer some questions.
Mhm. As people are kind of maybe thinking about the presentation and come up with a question, I have one question. You made the distinction between product and productivity, which I think is very important from the readings that I have made myself. If I understood you correctly, and correct me if I haven't, as we move in the industrial revolutions that you talked about from first to fifth, the productivity increased. At least that was my understanding, or there was continued productivity. But can you talk about the product itself? Because one of the things, yeah, go ahead.
Well, productivity and production are related. We will always have products and services that the industry offers, and the productivity growth will accelerate. This is my prediction. And since the Second World War, the average productivity growth in the United States was around 1 to 2% per year. And this growth in productivity, I think, will steeply increase as we get deeper into the digital age. And the productivity growth is actually the creator of wealth. And so we have the opportunity to create significant wealth. And you can see that already. We never had as many passenger cruise ships floating around where people enjoy their free time and spend a lot of money. Where does that all come from? That comes from productivity in the work that they are doing when they do work. And this kind of shift in our society will continue, where people will have more money available and more time for leisure activities. And at the same time, unfortunately, I have to say that a large portion of the world population is starving. And we have to find ways to reduce that portion in our society. And the digital age gives us the opportunity. We just have to do it right.
This is a very intriguing statement. I would like to hear more, but before that, I want to open it up for others' questions, if there are any other questions.
I have a question, and you might have covered this because I was moving from my office to the classroom, but where does AI fit in this? Is AI a disruptor to this theory, or is it going to kind of come alongside this strategy? I don't know if theory or strategy is right.
I think AI is a significant portion of this new development. And as I said, I compare AI to mathematics. Mathematics is considered the third natural science, and I look at AI as the fourth natural science. And so this is a significant part. And we hear that some people express some concern about AI because the logic that we have put into AI is now taken by AI and is taken to another level. And they are afraid that we don't fully understand what AI can really do. But my point is that the computer can actually only do what we specify in the computer. And the same thing occurs with AI. And if AI is getting out of control, in my version, that only means that we haven't done our work. We left some loopholes, and the AI is then pushing through those loopholes. But basically, AI will be in order to answer your question, in my mind, AI will be a contributor to the progress.
Good. Okay.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. My question is, have you considered take a look at it, Dr. Ansoff, synergetic aspect of his theory, which is 2 + 2 = 5?
Yes, and I've seen that, and if I understand it correctly, that just means that as we put components together that by themselves have, say, a value of 2, then 2 + 2 might be 4. But as they act together, they gain a value of 5 or even more. That is a typical concept that we observe in many integrations as we put components together. And we can also apply that to teams. If you have a team of 10 people and everybody is bringing a significant expertise to the group, then these 10 expertises are not just added up, they almost multiply.
Yeah, of course, he talks about the environmental tolerance and also strategy aggressiveness and capability, general management capability. However, it seems to me that it applies to a lot of field and a lot of situation, and so including the leadership aspect of the synergetic
Right.
application.
Right. That is right. I like your connection to leadership in this context. And as we talk about teams, and we often ask, what is the objective of the team leader? The team leader has to motivate his team members and bring them all to life and integrate the thing. He is the integrator. He is not the doer. He is the integrator and the stimulus in order to get the most out of the teamwork. So I appreciate that you brought that up. Yes.
I have another quick question regarding the leadership. And so recently, not recently, but 6 years or so, everybody's talk about the situational leadership. And so I think that there's another leadership is involved, but nobody has written about it. That's of course, I'm looking at the strategy management aspect of the leadership. That's the environmental turbulence dependent leadership. And so it depends what environmental leadership level 1, 2, 3, 5 Ansoff describes, and that's more effective than situational leadership. And so I just want to throw that out to see what you think.
No, yes, I agree with that, so it depends on how the environment is defined, but basically I would agree with that position. Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Very good.
Okay.
I wanted to add that, George, thank you very much for a talk which got the students to look at pure science, which is physics, chemistry, artificial science, its application in business and management. And then, of course, we had discussions on, like David brought up, environment, individual productivity. So there are so very many aspects to considering the impact of AI in our lives and in the future. And the only word of caution I have is actually, this is just the beginning. Much more will be happening. I'm saying this to the audience here, that it is still just the beginning. So there is much more changes to be happened. And therefore, the name of the game is you have to constantly keep updated. I think, George, you said the same. Constantly keep updated, constantly keep thinking, where is the impact and what do you need to do to be ready for not just the future, because today you are thinking you are studying and then you will graduate, but it is actually now and here, and continuously keep updating yourself. So back to Dr. Scott and Dr. Oziot.
Well, I think it's time we wrap. What do you guys think?
I think our students have a class starting in 1 minute. Thank
Yep.
you, everyone, for joining. I see a lot of my students, and I know, Corey, your students are here too. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you, George, again, for a very engaging talk. If you're able to stay on, I have a couple of more questions. If you don't have any other commitments after this, but for our students who need to leave and get to their class, and I know, Corey, you have a class that is starting, feel free to leave, but I have a few more questions for you, George, if you have time.
This is Saba, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Saba, I have another class starting at
Okay.
5 o'clock now.
Okay.
But I would really like to hear your questions and discuss them. Please find a time to contact me.
I will.
I'll be very happy to discuss
I am
what you
intrigued
have in
with
mind.
this
Thank
division
you.
of labor concept, so I will email you my questions. Thank you.
Very well. Very good.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day and have a good class.
Yeah. Thank you all very much. I enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.